Okay, so for today I just want to kind of review where your project should be and where you should end up this Friday in your self-portrait. Here in this example of a self-portrait is a completed illustration. And in this illustration, not only do I have my self-portrait, but I have painted a background. I've included a cultural artifact here, the Mimbres artwork from New Mexico, one of the places that I lived. And I've used a grid to help me locate and place my elements in the composition. Now a grid here is called the 2/3 grid. So I've made myself 1/3 and used the 2/3 for the rest of the composition. Notice also that at the intersections or on the line is where I placed my self. And at the top here, I've allowed the main object to be right in the center, with the two other objects on the left and right. A second self-portrait, and this one uses texture quite a bit. So not only can you paint your background, but after you've painted it, you can really add a texture that really makes the texture really vibrant. Now, again, in this one, I've used a grid. And in this grid, I've made sure that my self is in the center of one of the aspects of the line. Not right in the 2/3, but I've moved it over, which makes it pleasing to the eye. I have my cultural object, and in this one with the cultural object, I've really explored manipulating the shape itself. And lastly, I've taken my object, and this one is a seating, and I placed myself looking like I'm actually sitting on some ropes, which is a great thing, is to think about how you're placing your objects, which is a great way of actually placing yourself within your artwork. In this more abstract self-portrait, I've used the golden mean. And the golden mean here is about the size of the head, and as I curve across, the size of the body. And then it also has that sort of 2/3 property to it. So I've taken myself as 1/3 and allowed the rest of the composition to be 2. And lastly, if you do not get to your cultural objects, you just go with your self-portrait and the painted background. And in the painted background, I've really used my effects of my filters here. And so I really used different effects to create a really interesting background that I've painted originally. So if you don't get to your cultural objects, you may just have a background. And in that background, you're going to have a couple of elements to it. You will have the painting, and you're going to add texture. Then you'll add yourself, and then you'll be using the golden means or a grid. The project is due this Friday,